Winless at Windy Hill, couldn't use the pill, crap in attack, and when the hell is Bonnie back? This is the Sash Women's, most definitely not the official podcast of Essendon Football Club's women's side. I am your host for this week again, Ari, and with me is Jord.
How you going, Ari?
Could be better. That was real shit.
That was absolutely the biggest pile of shit I've seen in a while.
Yeah,
yes.
That was terrible. Courtney is still away in Korea, but she will be back next week, so this sausage party can come to an end. As we mentioned for the last couple of weeks, we're still taking submissions for a new panellist, so have a look on the socials and click the link and send in the answers to those few questions, and hopefully you can get you on the podcast. Let's get on with the show.
To square it back to Pressparkers for her first goal as a Bomber. And as she so often has, secures victory. Something to celebrate for Essendon in their 150th year. The Bombers with their first AFLW win.
Wales, about 45, lets it go right to the line, and it is all the way home.
All right, Jord. Let's deal with this shit show. Do
we have to?
I think we do, unfortunately. It was Essendon defeated by St Kilda at Windy Hill 2-3-15 to 3-5-23. Goals for us were Williamson and Walker, and for St Kilda, Gutteridge had 2 and Richards had 1. I don't know where to begin. I don't think I've been this annoyed by one of our performances, maybe apart from that West Coast one, but this one really annoyed me.
Yeah, it was a hard slog to get through. Not that many positives to take away from it. No. And on top of losing, it was also just a bit of an ugly game. Yeah. With not much,
goals.
Not many goals, not a huge amount of sparkling, dazzling quality on display. Yeah, it was a bit of a tough one.
Yeah. What's really annoying as well is we seem to be like a completely different side first half to second half all season. We come out the traps really well. We were right on top again. Same last week, same in round 1. And then we completely drop off after half time. Yeah. And we had complete control of the game in the first half, didn't really, take full advantage of it. But in the second half, I don't know. I felt like as soon as they hit the front, I felt like we're going to lose this game. There's I didn't see any chance we were going to take the lead back.
Yeah, well, when they were on the way back into the game, we had shown nothing in that period. So it was hard to see a return to what we were doing in that first half towards the end. It was eerily similar to a couple of the men's games towards the back end of the season of dominating inside 50s, dominating possession, really on top in the first half, just not capitalising, not executing well enough, and then just letting it slide after that. Yeah.
St Kilda have been quite an efficient side this season going forward. They use the ball really well and they don't need a lot of looks to kick a score, and we actually managed to sort of shut that down quite well. But I mean, on that score, we just fell apart as well. We just we couldn't connect going forward at all. And, missing Bonnie, maybe it's just a case of her straightening us up a lot, but we seem to unusual for us because our problem's always been elsewhere on the field. We've always been a great forward half team, but we just seem to lose all structure there. There's no options to kick to. Kicks are going over heads. The leading patterns are all off. It seems to just be falling apart a little bit in the forward line.
Yeah, I think looking up the stats this afternoon, I saw that we had a inside 50 efficiency rating of 20%, which is...
that's not good.
You're not going to win many games at all in the competition with numbers like that.
And especially you look at the scores and keeping St Kilda to, 23 points, we should be able to win that game. That is a good defensive effort.
2 of those goals being 50-metre penalties taken in the goal square as well.
That's the other thing that we need to get into. We'll start with some of the goods. Lily Rose Williamson impressed me again. I really liked her work the mark she took for a goal, I really didn't think she had the jukes for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Really strong out in front. That was, it could have been Bonnie doing that. That's what it looked like. And she slotted as well. She missed a goal later in the game, which could have brought us to just 3 points behind. But, in fairness to her, everyone was missing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I quite liked her game.
Yeah, and we noted it last week that she has obviously spent a lot of time in the gym, put on a massive amount of strength.
Yeah.
And that's, translated to her kicking as well, because it was a fair old roost. 35, 40 out, which is pretty impressive. Like, there aren't too many players in the competition that can kick that kind of distance. So, yeah, it's really cool to see.
Anyone else you impressed by their performance on the weekend?
A bit of a rogue shout, I think, but I think Amelia Radford played probably one of her better games for the club.
Yeah.
She's not one of the first 10 to 15 named in the side, I wouldn't have thought, but I think she provided a lot this week, which sometimes she can go missing a little bit, but that's just sort of the reality of her position in the side. But yeah, I think she had 17 touches and did a lot of good things, which was really nice to see.
Yeah, and especially with some of our other midfielders down on possessions, it was helpful. She's a weird one to try and pin down exactly what her role is. I feel like she's one of those that gets moved around to suit, because I remember last year she was bobbing up and kicking multiple goals in games. Yeah. So she can kind of do different things, which is handy. I thought Steph Wales was great. Yeah. All game.
Yeah. Player of the game, I would say.
Yeah, I mean she was up against a first gamer, so in perspective and all that, but she's still young herself. But yeah, really dominant, great in the air, got lots of the ball, clearances as well. She had 17 disposals, 6 tackles, 4 marks, 35 hitouts. So just a great all-round game.
I really like her hands in a contest. She's really clean at just one bounce, pick up and shoot out a hand pass, and it's really effective at hitting that outside player. As well as Georgia Nanscawen can, fire at the little short hand passes. It's
and also like her tap work is like there's real quality there. Like she can really put it down people's throats.
She's got some finesse that is missing with a lot of rucks.
That's the Andrew Phillips coaching from a couple of years ago. I thought as well, Sophie van der Heuvel had a really good game. I thought she was our primary mover through the middle of the ground, especially with our mids sort of down. And she had 15 disposals, 6 tackles, 3 marks. Good game from her. And yeah, like we spoke about before, our defence, I think, held up really well. And Georgia Clark in particular, we spoke about Wardlaw last week, that, first season she got a hold of us, second time we managed to put the clamps on her, and Georgia Clark did it again this week.
Yeah, and it's not just us that she's done it to before. She's a consistent goal kicker and a consistent thorn in most sides' side.
Which is massive. She's like a full foot taller than basically anyone on a list, maybe except Steph Wales, but that's it.
And she's not even just taller than everybody else, but she can use her height really well too. There was a couple of instances. It didn't result in too much, but she did push. I can't remember who it was, but just 2 hands to the chest, bang, gone, and then takes 3 steps to lead up and hit. Yeah,
and she can also move quite well. She sort of gets up the ground and kind of works back as well, and sort of can lose people. But I thought Georgia did a really good job and was in the coaches' votes as well. So in a losing side as a fullback, that's a pretty good effort. The bads, there are a lot of them. We spoke about the mids. Maddie P, Steph Kane, and Georgia Nanscawen all unusually quiet. Steph Kane was well down, but apart from, the other two weren't awful or anything, solid, but, from them we kind of need them to be more than solid.
Yeah, they weren't net negative, but they didn't provide the same spark as they had over the last couple of weeks and couple of years. I'm sure it'll be back, just a little hiccup.
Yeah, and I mean, they've all had good games this season, so it's not like they've been off consistently, but Maddie P had 18, Georgia Nanscawen had 21, and Steph Kane had only the 9, and that's all kind of down from what they'd all be averaging, so need a bit of a lift there. One I wanted to talk about, just watching this game, Paige Scott just was shitting me up the wall. No one can see this, obviously, because it's a podcast, but my hands are on my head for that, because I'm giving her a little bit of a break because it was her first game back from injury, first game for the season. So this isn't ruling her out going forward or anything, and we know how talented she is. But this week, she was a walking, talking clanger. She had 10 disposals, 10 clangers. That is not good. And I felt like every time she got near the ball, she messed it up somehow.
Yeah. And even when she didn't have the ball in hand, she still sometimes messed it up.
Yeah. One I think about particularly, that one of our players was going to take a chest mark, and Scotty just sort of climbed on the back of her trying to take a specky, and we ended up not taking the mark. Not either of them taking the mark, and we lost the ball. And it was just so much of that. I felt like every decision she made was the wrong one. Couldn't take a mark, couldn't hit a target. What worries me is this is a little bit of what we saw last year, and it wasn't all bad last year. She did some really good things and had some good games, but it feels like she's always trying to do the unbelievable and just doesn't do the fundamentals well. And if she's going to be a great player, which she has the talent to be, she needs to do the basics right first, and then everything else is, the cream. Yeah.
It kind of looks like she's, like you said, she's trying to do the extraordinary too often, but sort of half-heartedly almost. In that first season, she came into the league and was just electrifying.
Yeah.
Everything she did it with her chest, smashing through tackles, smashing tackles as well. It just seems like maybe she's down a little bit on confidence, whether that's just the injury. But yeah, I've got a lot of time for her, but she does have to fix it pretty quickly.
I mean, and you say about the confidence, and I think that's completely right. But what's weird is that you'd think that someone down on confidence would go into their shells a little bit and just try and just get a kick and, try and hit a target and take a mark. Whereas I feel like you're right, she isn't full-chested, really confident going at these things, but she's still trying to take a massive specky rather than just take the mark, or help your teammate out and block for them and stuff like that. And especially, with Bonnie not there, there's a real gap for someone to sort of take the leadership role in that forward line that needs a bit of structure and a bit of organisation. She's got to be part of fixing that problem, not making it worse.
It's interesting timing because with the emergence of Lily Rose Williamson, that role of sort of the mid-sized forward, the sort of, not quite the key, not quite the small, is that spot for Scott's a little bit under threat with Williamson playing how she's playing. So unless Scott can really get a grasp of, her talents or find somewhere to improve, maybe she gets moved around a little bit. But at the moment, Williamson's got that spot locked.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing with Scott is she can play tall or small. She can play that kind of, like you're saying, mid-sized, Daria Bannister lead up, marking forward, because she can take a mark, but she can also do like what, Jess Wushner was doing last year, goal sneak, small forward, and she can go into the midfield as well.
Midfield,
so she's not short of options as to what she can do, but she just has to, focus on contributing to what the team's trying to do and not sort of, I don't know, it feels like almost like she's just in it trying to get a highlight, and that doesn't really help us. But it wasn't just her out there not doing the basics well. There was one play which sticks out vividly in my mind. It was in the second quarter where the Saints moved it from one end to the other, took 3 contested marks, one after the other, with a Essendon player on them who went for the mark and didn't try and spoil from behind. And it's like, you have to spoil as the first option, and if you're sure you can take the mark, go for the mark. But if it's if you're a defender and it's a contested situation, spoil, make sure they don't take the mark. So many times they just didn't spoil, went for the mark, and they just moved it straight down the field.
Yeah, it's fair. We haven't got that many out and out interceptors in the side. So, I mean, apart from maybe Maddie Gay is the first one that pops into mind, there aren't many players that I really back to win a one-on-one marking contest that aren't Bonnie Tugord are sitting in that forward line. So it's a really good point.
Yeah, and the thing is, just like, when they're kicking inside 50, when they're sitting just outside the 50, kicking it to inside 50, if a player rolls off their man to go to the context to be an extra, sure, try and take the mark, and the one-on-one defender can try and spoil if you don't make it. But just a one-on-one contest on the wing, and you're playing from behind, and they're kick, it's a good kick straight to, you've got to spoil. You can't just let them take the mark. And yeah, it's like, I don't know, it was a constant thing all game that it was same as last week, same as the week before, just not doing the basics that we've been, generally pretty good at. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to add to that point of you saying that, they too easily moved it down the field with those three contested marks. St Kilda have been noted as being an incredible transition side this year, and we did manage to stop that transition for a lot of the game, but then just fell apart, which we have touched on before. But
yeah, I mean, look, in the first half we had complete control of the ball,
and
they really struggled to get their hands on it. And
they didn't have an inside 50 for the first 10, 12 minutes of the game.
And so during that time, we were right on top, and this wasn't really an issue because they were hurrying, kicking outside of 50, and the contest was like on our forward flank all the time. But once we stopped having that field position dominance, that's when it started to break down.
Yeah.
And we were still good inside defensive 50 because our defenders played really well, and that's why their efficiency inside 50 was so poor. But in terms of moving it, they were just moving it at will.
Yeah.
Which wasn't great. And, just in terms of the sort of simple things discussion, Chloe Adams, who got dropped this week, and I thought had a really good first game last week, and just because of, who was fit this week and Paige Scott coming back, she lost her spot. But she did nothing spectacular last week, but had a really good game by just doing the basics, positionally.
Played the role.
Yeah, exactly. Knew where she was supposed to be positioned, number of cut-off, intercept marks by being in the right spot and knowing when to go, finished really well for a goal. You can have a great game and really help the team by just doing simple things well.
Yeah. Umpiring.
Yeah. This was a big discussion in the Discord during and after the game. You go for it.
Look, it's pretty well known that the standard of umpiring in the W is not great.
Yeah.
As it is somewhat of a training ground for young umpires. But there was just some wild inconsistencies across the day.
Yeah.
Particularly with holding the ball. There's countless examples of that. I remember one, was it even Paige Scott that got tackled? She got the hand pass out, got tackled.
I think it was Steph Kane. I know the one you're thinking of. It happened to Steph Kane like 3 times in the space of 10 minutes where she got tackled, disposed of it legally, and was pinged anyway.
Yeah. It got pinged, and then half a second later, one of the St Kilda players just fell into the back of one of ours, and it was like, if you just held that terrible call for half a second longer, we would have got a free kick inside 450. But
yeah, I know there was holding the ball was all over the place.
Yeah.
I have heard that they've sort of half sorted out the umpiring issue from last year, where all the AFL contracted umpires contracts finish at the end of the season. They don't play. So I think the system is, I think this year, that there's one senior AFL umpire.
Yeah, Hayden Young or something, was that?
Yeah, I
maybe?
think so. So there's always one per game, and the rest are like younger developing umpires, which I think is fine. Like as a, it's like VFL, it's not, I don't feel like they're shirking giving AFLW, some proper umpires, but just they've got to be better with the consistency of the decisions. If they're going to be really hot on holding the ball, okay, fine, but be that all game and be in the position to see when players have handballed it legally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stop taking Maddie Sparks' goals away.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, and like you said earlier, the 50s that St Kilda got to take the lead didn't help how we were all feeling after the game either.
Yeah, Scotty a little bit stiff on one of those, but her reputation probably precedes her a touch. Yeah. So I don't blame the umpire for thinking that Paige definitely did knock her over. But
I like that one was weird because I can kind of see if I was the umpire and I was standing at the angle he was standing at, then it just looks like
Yeah.
she just went straight into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like it's like anyone can see that afterwards, but unless you have video review for those kind of decisions, it's never going to get turned around. Just a note, I thought Maddie Gay was great again. Her marking is so good. I just love watching her in the back line.
Yeah.
And something that we missed last week, but that in the people in our Discord did not miss, was that Maddie Gay equalled a league record for metres gained in a single game, which was 738 or something like that, metres gained in last week.
789.
789, more than I thought, which is incredible. So that's an all-time AFLW record that she equalled. So that's pretty impressive, and she's had a great start to the season for us. And Melbourne are missing her as well.
Yeah, they're missing a lot.
They're
of things.
struggling. You wanted to talk about Bannisters?
I think Bannister and shots at goal after the siren might be cursed. The other week she should have gone with the drop punt, went with the torp.
Yeah.
This week maybe should have gone with the torp. Yeah.
And it kind of she went for the drop punt, and it kind of like hovered like a torp.
Yeah.
She hit it so badly.
Yeah.
Our set shot goal kicking was not fantastic this week.
No.
There was an Alexander one as well, which I thought she just would have dobbed it at any other point.
Yeah, it's right in her wheelhouse, that one, wasn't it? Like that's her zone.
Yeah, exactly. And like for Bannister as well, like Bannister is not a short kick. That's why we were so surprised last week that she went for the top, because she was like 25, 30 out. She can, it's hard angle, sure, but I wasn't concerned she wasn't going to make the distance from that one. All right, enough of all that. Let's hear what Court has to say from back in Australia, finally.
Hello, mates. It's Courtney here. I'm very happy to confirm to you that I have been let back into the country somehow. Nothing got confiscated off me. Fantastic. My passport didn't go mental as soon as I came through the gates. So very happy to be back. It's fucking cold though. Why didn't anyone tell me it was back in winter here in Melbourne? But very excited, very happy to be home, very happy to sleep in my own bed. I'm really excited to come back and see you guys next week. And I'll try and bring some little treats. I think I've got a couple of bits and pieces in the 30 kilos of crap that I brought home. Caught a little bit of the highlights from the game on the weekend. What's with us giving away like 1 million free 50s? This is really undisciplined, and would like to hope that we don't see that kind of performance again. But other than that, geez, that was a bit of a hard loss against St Kilda. And, you put it to bed. And another notch in the belt, I guess. You put it to bed and you look up and forwards to next weekend. So I don't even know where we're playing or who we're playing against. But if it's in Melbourne, I'll be hoping to get along to that one. Hope you guys have had a great week, and I will see you next Monday. Bye.
Thanks for that, Court. Good to hear from her again. We'll be back in the studio next week for the podcast, which is good. And no, the game is not in Melbourne this week, Court, so you will not be going to it. Let's look at the coaches' votes from this week. And Saints dominated, as you would imagine. Watson 10, Guttridge 7 for us. Wales had 4, Nanscawen 4, George Clark 2, and for them again, Richards 2 and Smith 1. Good to see Georgia Clark got some recognition, because I thought she had a fantastic game.
I would assume that that's 2 votes from Woodsy, because I think Woodsy would have maybe reward a shutdown role a little bit higher than potentially the Adelaide coach. No, it's not the Adelaide. St Kilda coach. Del Santo. That's the one,
you never know, because when Wardlaw's such an important player for them, and they're kept so quiet, that is sometimes the opposition can sort of recognise that kind of thing.
That's true.
But we shall never know who gave her the votes, but it's good that she got some. We have another interview this week from Dan from pre-season, and this week we're going to hear from 4 vote getter, Georgia Nanscawen.
You're listening to The Sash. I'm joined by leader, VFLW Premiership co-captain, and I have to say, pod fan favourite, Georgia Nanscawen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
It was obviously exciting for the Bombers, and particularly for the fans, to make their first final last year. How did you assess the year post-season, kind of both for yourself but also the broader team?
Yeah, I guess for the team, making finals in our second season was a really great achievement. Something that we did strive for and we are very proud of. But I think with that comes, the next level of hunger, and we don't want to be satisfied with that. So we want to go better this year, but for us, it's not at the moment about thinking finals or thinking the outcome. We're very process driven this year, and yes, last year was fantastic, but we know that we can go another level, and we probably saw last year we were a little bit off the top teams in the competition, and we really want to bridge that gap and really challenge those top teams.
Yeah, fantastic. That's what you love to hear as a fan. I know it was a long time coming for you to actually pull on the AFLW sash. How did it actually feel last year for you to get out there, not just to kind of play for yourself, but also with these teammates that you spent time watching across that first season? Yeah,
it was obviously very cliche, but a huge roller coaster the first couple of years, being the first signing and then not being able to play through an ACL injury. So it was bittersweet watching my teammates run out for that first game at Marvel. It was such a special occasion for the club, and then to not be part of it was quite heartbreaking as well. So obviously put in a lot of hard work over that year and in the lead up to to the second season, and to then get to run out round one against Hawthorn. It was such a special moment, and to have my family there, and it was something to really celebrate, and then get to run out with the girls had felt like a long time coming, so it was a very special moment.
Yeah, wonderful. I feel like you had a really great game that evening as well. Like it was like, oh yes, finally.
It just felt good to be out there, and then to get a win over Hawthorn is always nice as well. So.
Always good, yeah. I think as well there's so much time in between seasons with the short length of the season. How does it kind of feel to have that break and now be back prepping to play again? Yeah,
it's a really sort of unique challenge, I guess, with AFLW at the moment, that we do have such a long off season, and we have sort of gone into our first year of a 12-month contract, so we have been working quite hard on the off season as well, and and then we hit pre-season, and then the pre-season seems to fly so quickly. So we'll be into games before we know it. But yeah, it does make you just very keen to get into it. And we know that scratch matches are approaching pretty quickly, and then we'll be hitting season. So there's that kind of little bit of reward at the end of the tunnel, I guess, for lots of hard work over many months in the lead up.
Yeah, fantastic. And how do you kind of keep yourself motivated during that time?
Yeah, I think you have to set yourself little challenges, and also give yourself little, rewards and breaks as well. It's a long time to just be out there running or, doing sessions by yourself. And this year was good. We sort of probably had a bit more of a culture of getting girls together, in the off season. So at least we were doing our running together and building that connection a lot more, which again has been another big focus for this year. So, it is can feel like a long slog for at times, but knowing that the reward at the end of it is to get to display it on game day, and we know that all that hard work will then come to fruition when we get to run out there. So I think it's just having that in mind, that the harder we work, then the more rewards we can reap from it at the end.
Yeah, great. Earlier this year, you re-signed, which was great to see. I guess it'd be good to understand kind of what excites you about being at Essendon in particular, and what are you looking forward to most this year?
Yeah, I have obviously been at Essendon for a number of years now, working through the VFLW, so it is a place that's really close to my heart. I think it ignited my love of sport again, coming into Essendon from a previous hockey career that I sort of lost the love of it a bit, and then a short stint at North Melbourne, and then coming across to Essendon in the VFL was when I really started just enjoying myself again and felt like I was in a place that made me really happy. So it is very close to my heart, and and it is a very special place. And then to be, part of the first, AFLW group going forward, and really being able to build that, build the culture that we want from the start, is something that it's great to see growing, and really do want to be part of it to see where we can get to. And I'm really excited for what we can do, because it's building year on year.
Yeah, wonderful. And for our listeners, is there anyone who's come into the club during this off-season that we should be watching out for?
Yeah, I think we've had a really great mix of experience and then youth come in as well. So Bess Kearney, who came from the Gold Coast Suns, was a leader there and has brought great leadership coming in this year, as has Maddie Gay, some of our draftees as well. Chloe Adams, another really, in and under, inside mid, Emily Goff, Amy Gaylor, have all just hit the ground running and really bring that work ethic and determination and want to get better, and that we need as a group if we're going to succeed. So it's just been great to see them come in and really make an impact straight away.
Yeah, great. It's an exciting time, at the club, and I was wondering, you touched on leadership there. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your leadership style and what that looks like for you as one of the more senior players in the group. Yeah,
I think I've always been probably a quieter leader and like to lead by example, rather than loud words all the time. So I guess having that professional sporting background for many years with the Australian hockey team, I've tried to bring those elite standards into my football, and encourage my teammates to follow as well. So I would say I'm definitely a head down sort of lead by example type leader, and I think we're really seeing now that the group, even from where we were in the first year, we've got so many more people following with that, and setting some really, really good standards for the group.
Yeah, great. And now the fixtures come out. Just finally, love to hear if there's any particular game on the fixture that you're looking forward to this season. I know last year we had the return to Windy Hill, so I know that's been really exciting and invigorating for fans.
Yeah, I think the Windy Hill games are always going to be huge. I think we've got round 1 at Windy Hill against Freo, so that will be fantastic. I think it's a Saturday afternoon, so we just want to encourage as many people to come down to Windy as possible. It's a great atmosphere, and although they may not be the biggest stadiums, at the moment, the atmosphere that we can get, inside Windy Hill is fantastic. So we'd just like to encourage as many people to come out as possible. And it was fantastic last year to see all the families and the kids out supporting as well, and it puts on a really good show. So the Windy Hill games, I think, are the ones I look forward to the most.
Yeah, great call to action there. I know when I was at the games last year, I heard people talking about their memories of coming back to Windy Hill, and that was really wonderful to hear. Well, we're so excited to see you back out there. Thanks again, and all the best for the season.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for that, Dan, and Georgia, of course. Really interesting chat. I think it's so underrated how tough it must have been for her to do her knee in the VFLW Grand Final. She's co-captain of the team, already announced as the first signing for the AFLW, and to know she's not going to play that first season, and as a leader as well, it just must have been so tough for her, and so it's such a credit to her that she managed to come back to really perform how she did last year, where she was a real revelation in her first season for us in the AFLW, at least.
Yeah, and she's not a spring chicken by football standards. So, I mean, what must have been going through her head when she did the ACL at 30 or whatever she might be. That would have really, really, really hurt. Really, like the mental toughness to come back from that at that age.
Yeah, definitely.
And
it's also impressive. It's not like there's some players of her sort of era that came to professional sport quite late because they were always footy players or they were doing other things and working. She has been playing professional sport for years. She played for the Roos for a little bit, but she was a hockey player for years before that. So
Games gold, I think.
So it's not like her body hasn't been through years and years of professional sport. So I can imagine that would have been she might have thought that this wasn't going to happen for her.
Yeah, particularly that it hadn't already started.
Yeah.
If you'd played 30 games to that point,
Yeah.
and she'd done an ACL, you know that there's a bit of security there. There's probably a spot for you when you come back, but
Yeah.
not one game played, do an ACL. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a sliding doors as well, because I do wonder if she had it been fit in the first season, whether she would have been the captain. Because she was obviously our VFLW captain. A lot of the girls were VFLW girls. They gave her the number 5. She was her first signing. You know, they clearly thought this was a player to build around.
Yeah.
You know, not because she had fantastic experience at the top level, but that her character and what she'd done at VFLW level. So, and she, you know, should they put her in the leadership group despite the fact that they knew she wasn't going to play that year?
Yeah.
So I do wonder whether Bonnie and Kano wouldn't be captains.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's potentially a big sliding doors situation.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I've certainly never heard anyone say a bad word about her.
Yeah, they love her. Everyone loves her.
Absolutely. And I think that sort of she's shown her personability in that interview a little bit there. Is that a word? Maybe. Who knows? We'll skip past it. Nice.
Yeah,
perfect.
I think it is. We'll go with it anyway.
Yeah. Don't send any messages in. Yeah, she's listed every single new player as one to watch. I think that kind of shows her sort of, get around the girls mentality.
Didn't want to leave anyone out.
Yeah.
Because maybe once she mentioned a few, she had to mention all of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and also just great to hear that, Essendon really ignited her love for sport again. And she does feel like she's sort of part of the fabric of the club now. She's been at the club for a long time now, and really helped build this women's football program. She's been there since almost the very beginning of the VFLW team. So great to hear from her.
Yeah, and it's also just lovely to see long sleeves week in, week out.
Yeah, until we get Georgie Prespakis.
Yeah,
and now no Jess Wushner, who's also a long sleever.
True.
It is good to see, and in the number 5 as well. It is very Jack Hurd-esque. Let's look ahead to this coming week, where round 4 is weird. There's a game going on right now, actually on a Tuesday night, which is bizarre.
Last score check is that Collingwood are getting beaten, which is
by West Coast.
Always nice to hear.
Yeah, and by West Coast too. Not great. Collingwood, real crap this year. They're a smoky for Wooden Spoon. I mean, the Dogs are awful, but Collingwood don't look great. They're getting smashed every week. But yeah, so there is weirdness this season with 2 rounds compressed into one twice. So we play a normal sort of fixture this week. We play on Sunday, the 22nd of September at 1:05 p.m. against Adelaide in Adelaide at Unley Oval, home of Sturt Football Club. We don't have a happy history of flying over to Adelaide, that's for sure.
No.
Got smashed last year. Adelaide are undefeated again this year. They are just always good.
Yeah.
And they are again. And we were questioning whether they would be pre-season, but they are.
Yeah, they've sort of snuck under the radar. I mean, I hadn't really predicted them as one of the red-hot favourites. I think you might have actually, Ari, at one point, potentially.
Yeah, I just sort of thought... I wasn't confident like I was with Melbourne that they were going to fall. Because I felt like they'd kept their whole group together, basically. And they're just so relentlessly good that, that they should be there or thereabouts.
Well, they've certainly cemented their sort of status as one of the ones to watch this season, that's for sure. Watching a little bit of the game against Hawthorn the other day, a little bit ominous. Hawthorn have been pretty solid this year, and they got absolutely blown away. So it is a little bit concerning.
Yeah, and we have had a pretty tough start to the season with Freo, West Coast, St Kilda and Adelaide all top 8 after round 4. And St Kilda and Adelaide, first and second, both undefeated. We do have a bit of a kind of run after that with games against Melbourne, Sydney, the Suns and the Dogs, the last 2 of which particularly friendly looking. But yeah, Adelaide... I mean, they've got their midfield is outrageous with Marinoff, Randall, and Hatchard. Marinoff is one of my favourite non-Essendon players. I just love watching her play.
Yeah, fair enough too.
Yeah, she's bloody great. And Daniel Ponta, their big full forward, who is an ex-VFLW bomber. one of our greatest exports.
Yeah.
Kicked 5 goals on the weekend, 22 disposals, 5 clearances. I think she's rivaling Marinoff as their best player. She is so good. Like, really, not the tallest in the world as a full forward, but really strong and really crafty. Great goal sense. Just knows where the goals are.
I think she kicked 2 goals just from contested marks taken in the goal scoring.
Yeah.
And as you said, she's not really key size, and she's absolutely just plucked it.
Yeah, I mean, like, she's undersized for a key forward, but she's just super strong. And like 22 disposals is outrageous with 5 goals. Like, that is a 3-vote game if ever you saw one.
I think she kicked 3 against us last year as well. So we're going to have to put a lot of time into figuring out how to stop Ponta running away with the game. Yeah,
I mean, on the upside for once our defence is looking solid, but I just think they're going to get if we struggle like we have the past few weeks with stopping transition, they're going to kill us through the middle of the ground.
Yeah.
Their midfield is so elite, and I remember from this game last year, it was so obvious the gap in like sort of elite level, even just physicality. Like, they're just big, strong, fast. You know, they're really like a top shelf midfield.
Yeah. Marinoff in particular is scary.
Yeah, she's a bull. I mean, and like the others as well. I mean, like Chelsea Randall's not a spring chicken anymore, but she's back in the midfield again and killing it. And Anne Hatchard's ridiculous as well. But like, Marinoff is just, she's like the prototype footballer.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not sure, like if someone asked, who can we use to I'm not sure we have a player that could go with her.
No.
Because anyone who's sort of big and strong enough is nowhere near quick enough.
Yeah.
She's just, she's got everything.
And even if you do tag her, I still back her in to get her 20 touches pretty comfortably. So you just
and then
kind
the
of
others get off the chain as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to see how we sub it. We'd have to have a really fantastic game. Or like, I mean, if we do what we kind of have been doing, last year, where we're using the ball well and just playing keepings off, moving it down the field and being really smart with ball use. I remember from the game last year that in the first half, like, we were sort of right with them, goal so behind, and then when they broke us, they broke us, and they just started piling goals on. So it's not like we can't do it. And the way we've played first halves this year, the other team hasn't got a sniff. They haven't got near the ball. It is possible to do that, but you have to keep it up all game. You can't let them have a 20-minute period where they've got the run of the place, because they'll just kill us. Yeah.
And we're not going to kick a score big enough to win the game running at the same efficiency as we have been this year. Like, things have to drastically improve.
Definitely,
for us to kick a winning score in this game.
Definitely. In terms of the injury list, it is getting smaller, which is good. Brooke Brown's still 4 weeks away with a calf. Bonnie 3 to 5 weeks with the knee. Interestingly, there was a reduction in the time.
Significant reduction, yeah.
So originally when she did the injury, it was 6 to 8 weeks. The next week it was 4 to 6. So they dropped it by an extra week in there, which is good. So obviously she's ahead of schedule. So we're running up and down the stand at Windy Hill, up the stairs there. Which is good. And Goffey was an out that we didn't see from last week because we didn't have the injury list when we recorded, but she's out for another 3 weeks with a calf. Maddie Gay was cited for rough conduct from last week, careless low impact body contact, but got away with a fine of $250, which is good, so she can still play. Changes for this week, what do you reckon?
It's tough because we're playing Sunday afternoon. We have the game against Sydney on Wednesday night, I think it is.
Tight turnaround.
So whether Woodsy thinks, shit, we have to rest 6-8 players this week or on Sunday to keep them fit for Wednesday, because I can't see you having the same side Sunday, Wednesday. That's not really doable. So
I mean, they can manage minutes a bit. Like, like Lily Rose Williamson played 48% of game time. Like, you don't have to do that with a full forward. So she can, with Sparkus and Nanscawen and Wales and like our sort of prime mids who are going to have to play both weeks, definitely, managing minutes would be helpful. I mean, we don't it's not like we have a big enough list to play two separate teams. It's just not physically doable.
It's also completely irrelevant because it turns out we're playing the Wednesday game a week next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
not a worry for this week then.
Yeah, we've actually only got Sunday, Friday. So
disregard that.
Yeah, don't listen to me at all.
Yeah, although you were on the ball last week because you suggested that George G might not make her way back in the team. And I poo-pooed that by saying that she always gets picked no matter what she does. And lo and behold, she did not come back into the team. So you were
Woodsy has me on speed dial. Yeah.
Yeah, make me look good for the podcast next week. But with how we performed, I could see her coming back in this week.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And also, Elise Gamble, who was back from suspension last week, also didn't make her way back into a team, which was surprising. But unlike Georgia G, defence, especially tall defenders, really held up and really did really well. So maybe she doesn't make her way back in. I don't know. It depends on their plans for Ponta, I guess, who they think is the matchup for her. I would suggest it isn't Elise Gamble, even if they do bring her back in. I don't think she's quick enough to go with...
Ponta would, on the ground, she's as much as small as she is tall. So
yeah, I think you've kind of got to go Georgia Clark for someone that can move with her and maybe will lose a one-on-one strength battle, or Van Loon, who can kind of do a bit of everything but doesn't have the experience. I don't think Elise Gamble's the go.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing Adams come back into the side.
Yeah.
You made a few good points before about how she just really, really did the things that she was supposed to do. Fulfilled every element of her role pretty well. So I wouldn't mind seeing her come back in. Who for? I'm not too sure. I haven't been completely sold with maybe Cody Jacques the last 2 weeks. Maybe she loses her spot for Gio Adams. I'm not entirely sure. It's
it's an interesting call with Cody. I think she's been playing in the forward line. I don't love her in the forward line. She is good with defensive pressure and that sort of stuff, but she just doesn't have enough going the other way. That's why most of last year she was a back pocket. I think that's her role in the team. So yeah, that's not a bad call at all. I can understand why Adams was dropped last week, just because of who we had coming in.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't love it in terms of, you want to reward a performance, and I thought, I wasn't expecting to see her play much footy this year, but when she did, I thought she deserved her spot. So yeah, it'd be good to see it back in. But we do expect Georgia G will be in this week, so we'll have to wait and see who's going to miss out. Predictions. Jesus. We'll go with goal kickers first. I mean, Bannister and Williamson are the only ones looking likely to kick a goal at the moment.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. Unless a midfielder drops forward. Yeah. One of those. Dario for me.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a tough prediction to make. The highest goal kicker, given that I don't think that we'll kick many more than 3 or 4 goals.
Do we even get a multiple goal kicker? I don't know.
I don't think she's going to kick multiple goals, but I think one of the areas on the ground that we actually do match up quite well with them is in ruck. Around the ground, Adelaide would have us beat just about in every little spot, but I think Wales has got them covered. Is Allen their ruck? Can't quite remember. But I think she can do a job there. Jessica Allen. I think Wales can get on top and maybe even sneak forward and roost one.
Yeah, good shout for best on as well. I mean, considering how much action I think our backline's going to get, I'm going to go for Maddie Gay again because I can just see her getting a lot of the pill. Result and margin. I think we probably both think we're going to lose this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 37-point loss.
37. Yeah, look, it's fair enough too. They've kicked, I think, 39 and 50-something points this year. Like, they're a high-scoring team. Do we kick? 24-4 goal loss. Oh,
Yeah,
which
so
is maybe
it's not a bad shout.
Yeah,
I think it all depends on sort of how well we're able to change what we're doing going forward.
yeah,
Because I think our defense can hold up, but only if we're doing enough going the other way. You know, if we're constantly under pressure, they will score.
We're going to have to kick 35 plus points to win the game. Like, that's a certainty.
Yeah.
Whether that's possible, who knows?
Yeah, and it's just like, it's as much about occupying, their mids and their defenders. If they can just sit outside 50 and keep pumping the ball back in and back in and back in, there's only so much your defense can do under that much pressure.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of be better going forward to put them off the game and also under pressure, just to give our backline a bit of a break. Anyway, not too confident for this week, but we'll see how things go. Let's look around the grounds. North, demolition job on the Ds, who do not look good. They look in some real trouble this year. If Cator doesn't kick goals, they don't win games. And North back to form again after their surprising draw the week before. What else? Any other games or performances stick out for you?
The Sunday afternoon game, I think it was the Expansion Cup final. Gold Coast GWS.
Yeah.
Not one of the big ticket games of the weekend, but a cracking finish.
Yeah.
Stanton kicking one after the siren to steal a draw, which is always pretty entertaining.
Suns look pretty happy with that draw as well.
Yeah,
Which is surprising.
Yeah.
They're up and about for a draw.
And, just on Gold Coast, you said just before that Marinoff might be your favourite player outside of the Bombers, but
Charlie Rowbottom.
I would, if Charlie Rowbottom playing for Bombers would just be incredible.
I don't know if it's just me, and I wasn't paying attention last year, but she looks like she's put on a huge amount of size because I don't remember her being like such a unit.
Yeah, she's an absolute bully now, that's for sure.
And I remember when she was drafted and she was always like a star and, was going to be a great player. But I remember her being, quite sort of skinny and light framed and a sort of mover and user in like a Monconti sort of frame. Now she's a proper Marinoff sized bull.
42 disposals, 8 tackles, 14 clearances.
Yeah, it's outrageous. 14
Just
clearances
ridiculous.
is out of control. Carlton kept the Cats goalless, which wasn't on my bingo card. But that's what happens when Georgie P doesn't play. She's out injured. And I want to ask the question that she has not had a good season so far. It's been out of form. Maybe she's been injured the whole time because she's out with a quad now. And the Cats, much like us, underperforming versus expectation. Does that give us a better chance of getting her at the end of the season if the Cats have a shit year and she's having terrible run with injuries?
She needs a fresh start.
Yeah.
She looks bereft of. Yeah. she needs to move for her own mental well-being.
Yeah, she needs a change of scenery.
She needs her older sister to just put her arm around and say, "It's all right, Georgie, we got this."
Well, the thing is the Cats are, have been a team on their way up, growing with a group that's grown together. And I can understand not wanting to leave that, even though you're a Bombers supporter and that's where your sister plays and all that kind of stuff. But I think if they slide backwards and they're no longer this growing team on the path to something fantastic, then maybe we've got a chance of prizing her away.
Bring Nina Morrison along with you. Why not? Yeah.
Bring the whole Cats over. Just swap ourselves out. I wanted to talk about Zach Merritt as well, who's been in the news this week with St Kilda apparently offering him a bag to fly down to Moorabbin. And I don't think it's going to happen. Just because I can't, from everything we've heard about how much everyone's buying into Scott and the whole vibe around the place and everywhere it's going and his form, I just can't see him throwing in the towel.
No, and I mean, it's not really in a position to make fun of other clubs given how terrible the Essendon men's side have been. But have they forgotten their place in the league down there? Like what?
Yeah,
they're not a club that comes for captains. They're a club that comes for
cast-offs.
Third round draft picks that have played 15 games over 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's their little bracket of players.
Yeah, or like players like habitually injured who never got on the park, exactly. Dan Hanbury. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up is the front-ended contract thing. So Zach Merritt's got a few years to go, but on essentially minimum chips because he's been front-ended on his contract. And we've done that obviously to free up cap space so that we can, continue to recruit players going forward. But I just wonder if it leaves us a bit open to having players pinched from us, because we're going to have a lot of players who are stars and in the last 2 to 3 years of their contracts aren't going to be earning much money. And, does that leave us vulnerable sort of to losing players we don't want to lose?
It probably does. It might also mean that Ben Mackay gets taken somewhere else, which, I wouldn't be too sad about. No, it is a good point. I just find it a bit odd. Like, if you're getting paid, so what would say Ben Mackay is my example. What was he on?
Let's say it's one, for argument's sake. 1 million a year.
Then like you said, if in his 4th year of his deal, if he's only getting 500, he is a player that could be swayed. It does feel a bit grim that you could invest that amount of money into a player in the first half of their contract and still lose them. That does feel harsh.
Yeah, but
that is the choice of those managers.
I mean, and that's what I mean. It's a risk, and I don't think it's necessarily the wrong move, because there's a reason why we're doing it. Is so in 3 years' time, when we've got all these players who are hopefully stars and we're in a premiership window, they aren't all on 1.2 million a year. They're on 300, 400K, and we've got a bag to be able to give to someone else to recruit players still. There is a reason to do it. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. I just think it's something I never hear anyone talking about it, like the risk of playing it out that way.
Yeah. Like with a year or two to run, saying, actually, I wouldn't mind a little renegotiation here. It does leave yourself open to then them coming back and saying, no, I still want another $1 million a year.
Yeah, I don't think... I mean, that is possible if they've got another deal under their nose, but you'd also get the extra years on that. It's not like we'd just renegotiate the contract with 2 years left and they'd get the next 2 years at $1 million.
Yeah, that's true.
It would have to be more years. So you could balance that out still. I think it's more... I mean, like, it's the risk you'd take, because if you back end a contract, which some clubs do for other, depending on where their list is at, then, players in their first 2 years earn not much, and then they might get traded, and suddenly, it is a risk to not get paid your average every year. But that's why the average wage isn't really a thing. It's what you're getting paid in each individual year. But yeah, I can't see Merritt leaving. That would seem really
certainly not
surprising.
St Kilda. I haven't got 1 ounce of worry in my body that he's going to St Kilda. If it was Geelong or Sydney or something coming in, maybe I'd be like, oh shit, okay, what's going on?
I don't think Geelong would have the cash to make it worth his while. But
no, but at least they've got the pull, which St Kilda can't possibly have to anybody who's getting a game anywhere that's not St Kilda.
Well, yeah, and it's like, why? Okay, you'd leave Essendon for money, okay, but because you saw the chance of success being greater than where you are. Why would that be St Kilda? On what basis could you say
you can
St
stay
Kilda?
at Essendon and get your massive pay packet.
Yeah.
You won't get success, but you won't get success like leaving either. So
yeah, and you're not going to be captain, and you'll be Judas as well, and that no one wants to be that.
Truly. Take Shield, we can keep Merritt. Done.
Do they want him still there? We'll see, I guess, over summer.
Who does?
All right, guys. So that's it for this week. Hopefully the girls do us proud over the weekend, but, it's in Adelaide, so that's going to be rough. Thanks for everyone for listening. Check out our socials and subscribe to the Discord. Also, if you, like we said earlier, if you want to get onto the podcast, answer those questions, the link will be on the socials, merch and everything on the website, and we'll see you all next week. Calm the planes.
Up the plains.